Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, we're really glad you're with us for the Friday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Yes, we finally made it here again, and once again this week it feels like a significant accomplishment. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today. And Jim, let's start with the good martini, as we usually do when we actually have one, and take a look at the narrative the Biden administration's been peddling for the past several days, that it's entirely Putin's fault that you're paying record numbers at the gas pump. That is not backed up by the facts, and they are counting on Americans having a very short memory and being willing to pay a lot over an extended period of time, neither of which I would say are very good wagers on their part. But Drew Holden, he is a freelance journalist. He's written in the past for National Review, but also the New York Times, Washington Post, Fox News, Federalist. And so he's got this long thread on Twitter. It says, President Biden recently said, quote, "It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production." So he goes through and looks back at what the Biden administration has actually done, while Jen Psaki is making jokes about embroidered invitations for energy companies to drill. Drew Holden says, just 2 weeks ago, Biden froze new drilling permits and stopped leases on federal lands because a court ruled that they couldn't use an elevated, quote, social cost of carbon, unquote, to make it more difficult to drill. Instead, they shut the whole process down. This opposition to domestic energy production isn't new. When Biden first took office, he moved to ban new oil and gas leases on federal land, which is a huge slice of U.S. energy, via executive order. The measure was eventually stopped by the courts. Back before gas prices hit record highs, Biden's allies were praising the administration for taking bold steps to limit fossil fuel production. One of their key points, we supposedly already had enough supply to meet domestic needs. Can't imagine who seriously would suggest that. Biden also proposed ending a wide range of tax benefits for drilling and exploration, something supporters said would hopefully, quote, discourage additional oil and gas development, which of course makes the process more expensive, particularly when competing with heavily subsidized renewables. And he says, I'm sure that no one has forgotten that Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline on his first day in office. And he's got all sorts of other tweets here, including suspending gas and oil leases in Alaska and on, and highlighting where the administration and environmental groups were saying, yes, this is the beginning of the end of the era of fossil fuels. So, Jim, he's expecting that we have no knowledge of the past, and meaning Biden, and he's wrong.
Yeah, Greg, I suspect all of those points will appear in one form or another in attack ads coming this fall. It is very hard to believe that it will not be, a lingering issue for much of the year. I just decided to check over on AAA. The national average is now $4.33. Obviously, that means you're paying well north of $5 and $6 in places like California. For perspective, a week ago it was $3.83. So we've had a 60-cent increase in gas prices and the average price per gallon in just 7 days. All right. Now, obviously, a year ago it was $2.82. But it was probably a year ago where I was saying, man, that's pretty pricey. At that point, we thought that was high. We didn't realize just how high it could get. So I think that these positions are going to be untenable. I'd like to see oil companies be a little more forthright and clear about this, to say, look, we'd like to drill more here in the United States. We'd like to do so, but we know pretty much since January 20th, 2021, that we had an administration that hated our guts, did not want us to drill more, did not want us to produce more, saw us as the enemy, and was going to throw just about every regulatory tax and permitting roadblock in our way that they could. And only when gas became really, really expensive, only when it became a political liability, and only when it became clear that OPEC was not going to help, did Joe Biden start changing his attitude and start talking about the importance of domestic energy resources. So look, everybody can see what's happening here. I think this is part of I would like to say, this is the most consequential mistake Biden has made in office, Greg, but there's just so much competition for that title.
Yes.
The border, Afghanistan, food prices, all kinds of other aspects of this. But I think this is one you're going to see in probably just about every House race, every Senate race. Maybe even in gubernatorial races. People are just going to point out, you just can't trust the Democrats. They don't believe in domestic energy production. They hate oil. They hate gas. And as a result, you're paying more at the pump. I think that's going to work coast to coast. And if you're a Democrat in anything but the bluest of districts, I think you have to be really worried about this, because also this isn't going to be a short-term pain. This is going to stretch on for month after month, and we're not even into the heavy driving months of the year.
Yeah, and two things Biden has said recently which really grind my gears, and I'm guessing grind a lot of people's gears. First of all, there was the shout out when he was outside the other day. Do you have any plans to help Americans with fuel prices? And he kind of throws up his hands and says, nothing much I can do. Russia's responsible. Well, we know exactly where gas prices were a week ago. Jim just told you where they were. The Russian situation is certainly adding to the problem, but it's not the only reason for the problem. He also said in his statement when he announced the ban on Russian energy imports, he said, he tried to make the argument like we saw at the beginning of the Drew Holden thread there, that I don't know why people are talking about how we're not doing enough domestic energy production. And his line was, we produced more domestic energy in my first year than my predecessor did in his first year. Jim, talk about misleading. The reason for that is because the Republicans at the beginning of the Trump administration had to ramp up due to all the restrictions on federal land and elsewhere from the Obama administration. And Biden walked in with things a lot looser, a lot more open, and he's been ratcheting them back down. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if that statement were true, but it's not very honest.
Greg, we probably should clarify that when you say it grinds your gears, that assumes you can afford the gas to start your car in the first place.
No, that's exactly right. And this is an issue that gets everybody, because if you are driving, chances are you're probably going to drive past a gas station. It's just something that's going to make your blood pressure rise every time. If you drive by the grocery store, you can't see the prices. You drive past the gas station, you can see the prices, and that's just going to make people frustrated. You can't think that people aren't going to see the impact that is having on their lives. All right, on to a brand new sponsor today on the 3 Martini Lunch. Very happy to have them, Outer. Look, 93% of your life is spent indoors. But so many of our favorite moments, of course, are outdoors. The fresh air, the feeling of peace. And since warmer weather is almost here, and, pandemic is easing, let's make the most of it with Outer, the new outdoor furniture company with purposely designed furniture to get you outdoors more.
Outer makes the world's most beautiful, comfortable, innovative, and high-quality outdoor furniture, all from sustainable materials, and it is the only outdoor furniture with a patented built-in cover to make protecting it effortless. From teak chairs to fire pit tables, everything Outer makes has the look and feel of what you'd expect at a 5-star resort, for less than you'd pay at a big box store for something that won't last. Outer is better in every way because they've spent years perfecting outdoor products. From stunning modular designs to life-proof material, they have more than 1,000 neighborhood showrooms across the country so you can see their products in person, and a patented built-in outer shell cover that will protect your furniture from rain and dew. Outer furniture comes with best-in-class warranties like 10 years for their chic aluminum line and a 2-week trial with free returns.
Look, we're excited to have Outer as a new sponsor here on the 3 Martini Lunch. We are also looking forward to getting some of Outer's products. And it's not just the furniture, which is high quality, a lot of different designs that go with whatever your fashion tastes are when it comes to your patio furniture and so forth. But they also have great accessories, like the bug-resistant blanket. I mean, that's a great idea if you're going to spend time out on your deck or patio or wherever outside you want to be comfortable and not annoyed by the critters. So see the difference at liveouter.com/martini. Plus, for a limited time, get $300 off and free shipping. This is Outer's best offer anywhere. Only available to podcast listeners and only for a limited time. Again, get $300 off and free shipping at liveouter.com/martini. liveouter.com/martini. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Jim, on to, I guess, a second good martini. We don't really have a bad martini today. Jussie Smollett. He, of course, the purveyor of the fake hate crimes in the frigid nights of the south side of Chicago a couple years back, saying that guys in MAGA hats on the south side of Chicago told him it was Trump country and beat him up because they just happened to know that he was gay, and also because he was black. Well, he was convicted in Chicago, mind you, which tells you, I mean, there's really no doubt in this situation. And yesterday was sentencing day for Jussie Smollett. He ended up getting 150 days in jail. But the sentencing hearing went on forever because his attorneys kept coming up with character statements from his family, which you would expect, and then a long list of celebrities from everyone from Jesse Jackson to Alfre Woodard. But Judge James Lynn wasn't hearing it. He really laid into Smollett as he built up to the official sentence of 150 days.
Frankly, I do not believe that you did it for the money. You were making, the evidence showed, close to $2 million a year when this happened. I don't think money motivated you at all. But the only thing I can find is that you really craved the attention, and you wanted to get the attention, and you were so invested in issues of social justice, and you knew that this was a sore spot for everybody in this country. You knew this was a country that was slowly trying to heal past injustices and current injustices and trying to make a better future for each other, and it was a hard road. And you took some scabs off some healing wounds and you ripped them apart for one reason. You wanted to make yourself more famous, and for a while it worked. Everybody was talking about you. The lights are on you. You were actually throwing a national pity party for yourself. And why would you do such a thing? Why would you, I understand, you crave the attention so much, but why would you betray something like social justice issues, which you care so much about? And the only thing I could conclude is that and I acknowledge there are wonderful sides to you. There are very giving and charitable and loving sides to you. But you have another side of you that is profoundly arrogant and selfish and narcissistic. That's the only thing that can be concluded. And that bad side of you came out during the course of all these events.
Jim, I feel like Judge Lynn almost took away most of our commentary there. He nailed it.
Yeah, I was thinking this is probably, hopefully, the last time we talk about Jussie Smollett on this program. I think that this really has been justice delayed, but thankfully it is not justice denied. I think 150 days in jail is an appropriate one because, the judge articulates it well, that he kind of put everybody else through this. In a very strange way, this is worse than, being a pickpocket or, sticking a gun in somebody's face and robbing a liquor store. Or those are all bad crimes. No getting around it. But this was basically an attempt to try to make everyone believe that, America, and in particular Chicago, was a worse place than it was. That there were rampaging, maniacal, violent racists who apparently watched the show Empire, which doesn't really make a lot of sense from the very beginning. And then when he got caught, and so many people caught, he doubled down on it and he stuck by it. And anybody with, a lick of sense would be like, wait a second, this was the coldest night in Chicago in many years. He was out at a subway at 2 a.m. And these two guys in MAGA hats, and they've got a rope, and they throw bleach. None of this stuff made sense from the beginning. And if in a day or two he'd admitted it a hoax, maybe this wouldn't have ended up with 150 days in jail. Maybe people would have said, all right, idiot celebrity does idiot celebrity thing, hit him with a fine. Okay, no problem. But then the other thing is how much the system of Chicago, including the initial prosecutor, went out of their way to not punish him and to not hold him accountable for his actions, which I think was, you talk about tearing off the scab. I think they kind of lived down to every stereotype of Chicago being a deeply corrupt city in which certain people are above the law. Thankfully, that occurred. It did not turn out to be the case. It took a long time. It took years. But now we can close the book on this, and Jussie Smollett has gotten what he deserved.
Well said, Jim. And I certainly echo what you said at the very beginning, and that hopefully this is the last chapter that we'll have to talk about in the Jussie Smollett saga. So on to the great deals from MyPillow. And who doesn't love a great deal? And if you go to mypillow.com/martini, you can access more than 20 phenomenal deals, including MyPillows as low as $19.98, My Slippers at 50% off, the MyPillow towel sets at their lowest price ever, just $39.99, 60% off any Giza Dream Sheets with a price as low as $39.99.
You want My Slippers. I don't mean the slippers I'm wearing right now. I mean the MyPillow brand My Slippers. With the exclusive 4-tier cushioning system, which includes the MyPillow patented fill, the memory foam, the impact gel, and a sole that can be worn indoors and outdoors.
You will find all the great offers and more at mypillow.com/martini or when you call 800-874-0104. Right now, every order using the promo code Martini will receive Mike Lindell's new book, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, for free. mypillow.com/martini or call 800-874-0104. Get direct access to all the deals. Again, at mypillow.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to the crazy martini now. And every once in a while, usually when a Republican is president, The esteemed Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists will all gather in their lab coats with a giant clock behind them and move the infamous Doomsday Clock closer to midnight, which means we're on the brink of nuclear annihilation. I think they did that. They inched it a little closer to midnight when George W. Bush pulled out of the ABM treaty. They did it at some point during the Trump administration. They usually tend to be much more concerned about nuclear annihilation when a Republican is president, but apparently not when the Russians are in a hot war and threatening nuclear weapons. This is from the Free Beacon. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists will not move the time on the Doomsday Clock closer to midnight, despite a hot war in Europe involving a nuclear power, raising questions about the practices of an institution several legacy media outlets refer to as scientific. When asked by the Free Beacon whether the clock would move forward after citing criteria the organization has used in the past, such as armed conflict involving countries with nuclear weapons, a spokesman referred to a March 7th statement from the group saying the time would remain unchanged. Subsequent questions about the organization's methodology have gone unanswered, even though Putin has put the nuclear arsenal on high alert. So, Jim, I don't think most of us on the right have ever paid a lot of attention to this outfit, but whenever you see hypocrisy like this, it certainly makes you do a hard eye roll.
Yeah, there's a couple of points. First, in theory, the organization is fine, right? We don't, obviously, everybody in the whole wide world is opposed to nuclear war, other than maybe a handful of maniacs. And so you'd like to say, okay, how close are we? How dangerous is the situation? Is this just the usual saber rattling, or is there genuine fear that something going on could escalate into nuclear warfare? Now, since the end of the Cold War, you should have taken it not just further back from midnight. It should have been better than daylight savings time. Turn that clock back a bunch, because the likelihood of a nuclear exchange, not just between the U.S. and Russia, but anybody else, China, any other potential nuclear state, was pretty darn low. Maybe we worried about India and Pakistan for a while, and other potential nuclear states. But by and large, no, we're going to be fine. The problem is not just that they moved it so close to midnight that they have not much more room to go.
Right.
That they basically, I think all throughout the Trump era, they kept pushing it closer and closer. And it wasn't good when, Trump would say Rocket Man, and I'm sure stuff like North Korean missile tests are something that are unnerving. I don't think it necessarily means we're on the verge of all-out nuclear war, but fine if you want to treat that as the false alarm test in Hawaii a few years back. Okay, that could freak people out. That's, But it also was kind of this idea that something that would seem much more tense, i.e. Russia putting its nuclear forces on a higher state of alert, did not make it move forward. And so it's kind of this wait, you guys seem really eager to push it ahead closer to midnight certain times, when what happened doesn't seem that dramatic or that much of a change. But also when something that happens that does seem, at least to a layman's point of view, boy, that does sound really scary. That isn't doing it at all. This is only a vaguely related issue, but I noticed, for example, last week the U.S. canceled a test of one of our ballistic missiles because we did not want Russia to. Now, by the way, when we do this, we announce it to the world. We don't want anyone to see a missile going off and say, "Oh my God, it's World War III starting! Quick, shoot our missiles in retaliation!" Right? There's a story of getting a little unnerving in I believe it was 1983. When the Russians noticed something which was a typical NATO test, but they figured it might be the real deal. But in this case, we decided, hey, you know what? Things are tense enough. We're not going to go ahead with this test. We're going to reschedule it and do it some other time. We just don't want to give the Russians any excuse to misinterpret this as a attack or something like that. And there are a couple people, I think Tom Rogan of the Washington Examiner is this is really. Putin's being all out aggressive in every conceivable form, shelling cities, destroying hospitals, all kind of thermobaric weapons, you name it, he's doing it. And we're saying, well, we're not going to go ahead with our previously scheduled, perfectly legal test because we don't want to do anything that'll freak him out. Okay, so we're kind of just, it kind of seems like we're kind of backing down in the face. You can agree with Rogan, you could not. I do think it's interesting we chose not to go ahead with that test. But starting next week, we are going ahead with a huge annual NATO exercise in Norway. Now, apparently the exercises will be not near the part of Norway that shares a border with Russia, but it's going to be a very big one, 30,000 troops involved, more than 200 planes, 2 aircraft carriers, one of ours, one of the British, practicing reinforcing the defenses of Norway. Greg, I ask you, reinforcing the defenses of Norway from whom?
Must be the Swedes.
I was gonna say, it's not like North Korea is gonna go halfway around the world or something. It ain't Angola that's gonna invade Norway. Clearly, this is all preparing for a Russian invasion of Europe, and so I don't think there's any particular reason to think that these long planned exercises that they've notified Russia about back in January. The Norwegians have emphasized they've taken all kinds of steps to make sure that Russia knows what's going on. Russia was invited to be an observer. They declined the invitation. There's no reason to think that this particular training exercise is going to freak out Russia and cause World War III. But I do think it's kind of interesting that 30,000 troops running around the Norwegian coast, running exercises, taking off stuff, landing troops, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's going to go on. We're not worried about that freaking out the Russians. But our ballistic missile test we did. It just seems a little unusual to me. Again, the sense of what is provocative and we shouldn't do because of what the tantrum that Russia is having. Very fuzzy line these days, Greg.
That's exactly right. I love the point you made about how they got no more room really to push closer to midnight. I think they're at 11:59 and a number of seconds at this point. So, when you try to score some points politically, by saying, ooh, whatever Trump did or whatever Bush did or whatever Reagan did, that moved us a little bit closer to midnight. That'll get us some headlines. And now you're at 11:59 and however many seconds. And, well, I guess we're there or we're not.
It's no biggie. It's fine. It's good. Yeah. Enjoy your weekend. From the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists.
We're at 11:59 and 23.2 seconds now.
Yeah. Do atomic scientists like hang glide on the weekends or something? I mean, clearly they're not as risk averse as, say, virologists, who, as we all know, don't want to come anywhere near you, shake your hand, or take your mask off. They want to have 3 masks on before they have you over for a barbecue. And at that point, they'll obviously they will cook until it's black because they don't want you to get salmonella or anything.
Oh, Jim, I think it's time for the weekend. Have a great one, and I will see you on Monday.
See you Monday, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Please tell your friends about us as well. We are very grateful for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. We also invite you to find us on your home devices. Just say, play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great weekend, and please join us again on Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
Hi, it's Dana Lash, host of The Dana Show. Every day, I'm here to keep you up to speed on the most important stories and info that you need to know in your very busy life. And if you're always on the go and you want to stay connected, just download our daily podcast and take it with you. It's a great way to get up to speed on what you need to know and what legacy media may not be telling you. Visit danaradio.com and click on the podcast link or subscribe at iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.